In Britain since 1945, more people have been killed on the roads at the hands of our own citizens than Hitler managed to kill during all the years of war. Yet they look quite harmless, genial, practical, and down to earth. Something truly British. Something of which Britain can be proud.
The heart of a city, the heart of an empire, throbbing with the might and power of age-old tradition, guarding the rights and privileges of free men everywhere. London's links with history range from quaint Dickensian backwaters to triumphal monuments recalling victories on land and sea. Here, Winged Victory herself stands in memoriam to the Iron Duke of Wellington, while in Trafalgar Square, flanked by Landseer stone lions, rises the Corinthian column of Admiral Lord Nelson. Whitehall, center of government and of law, where the needs of many are as the needs of one. With the sound of Bow Bells lingering in our ears, we journey on through the wonders of beautiful Britain to England's verdant pastureland, a land of memories, a land where the past is still so much a part of the present. Here it was that sovereigns reigned from time immemorial unto eternity herself. Here it was that man set forth to seek the riches of an empire. Here it was that common man could know the peace and shelter of the friendly countryside. The countryside through which famed poet Wordsworth wandered, lonely as a cloud, spied a host of golden daffodils. The serenity that inspired those immortal words is still ever with us in England's green and pleasant land. And so to the open road, along which thundered Dick Turpin and John Peel, resting a while at the quaint coachings, still echoing to the cries of rakes and dandies and the tramp of redcoats. And so, with history uppermost in our minds, and with reluctance in our hearts, we say farewell to Britain, a land which has yielded much, a land where man and beast alike recognize fate as their ultimate destiny.
It all started when the horse stepped out of the shafts, leaving behind it something between a cab and a boat. The new contraption took some getting used to, what with its tentative controls, and at the back a curious lumbering flywheel. It was launched into the Belle Epoque of beautiful elongated women and comfortable servility. When Motoring was the hobby of presidents and kings, and the opening of a motor show something in the nature of a state occasion. When Mr. Rolls and Mr. Royce made for an aristocratic age their aristocratic motor car. Until a great blow for democracy was struck with the appearance of the Model T Ford. Not many will remember this, but once upon a time, men and women, or gentlemen and ladies, went out in cars for a drive to take the air and explore the rolling English road. Not often finding gold on the way, although there were bonanzas for some people. In those days, the manufacture of motor cars was by way of being a cottage industry. The car itself, a handmade object, put together by men who couldn't ever hope to possess the product of their own labor. But for the middle classes, it was becoming a case of, shall we have a baby or a car? Some of the choices open to them were curious ones. Genetic sports which died out in the course of evolution. Most of them were too slow in any case for the extroverts. From the beginning, they wanted something more from the motor car, speed and danger, even to the point of death. Seagrave, Campbell, Parry, they burnt up the records and themselves. Pushing the speeds up on either side of the Atlantic, wherever they could find a golden beach smooth enough, long enough. For them, all the ballyhoo that goes with a bullfight or a heavyweight championship. The cars they drove were not so much machines as projectiles, going faster and faster until they did everything short of actually flying. There are, of course, other visions of the motor car, pastoral ones, gentle ones. A way of keeping some sort of touch with the round of the seasons and the shy, secretive life of the animals. A means of escaping from the cities we have built ourselves and the traffic we have generated in them. A way into the countryside, or what's left of it. An instrument in our search for silence, for clean air. The car is a liberator which can free our children from their stone pens and cement playgrounds, from the noise, dirt and fumes in which they are forced to live. The friendly car. Its function, a means of transport for family units, bringing people together, linking friends and relations. Something safely domestic, like the fridge or the washing machine. The object of veneration in suburban avenues on Sunday mornings. indispensable utility for all but the poorest, an object of affection, a member of the family, the good car, cherished and loved by all. This religion has its priestesses and its handmaidens. It also has its golden idols who require a daily offering of human sacrifice. The objects of veneration are set up for worship on lofty pinnacles and in the high places.
Alone in pure dedication to beauty and relaxation. Alone in jet-smooth luxury. Here is space for freedom of movement, enclosed in a Fisher body carpet, in motion, as quiet as space itself.
Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Our childish dreams are filled with harmless images of speed and power. But behind them, there's always the threat of violence and death. In these days, any day, many of us see our first corpse by the roadside or being cut out of a shattered car. It's worth watching this carefully, because this is how a good many of us are going to die.
The killing injuries, of course, happen in the trunk, that's the abdomen, and the chest and the head. But when you get a combination of head and chest injuries, you increase the fatality rate from head injuries by 3 or 4-fold. The deformation of the car we talk about as the first collision. But there is a second collision, when the occupants of the car leave their seats at approximately the same speed as the car was moving just before the crash, and they hit various objects inside the car. Doors may fly open, occupants may be thrown out to hit the road or be run over by passing vehicles, or a car may be deformed onto the occupants, that is, the passenger compartment deformed onto the occupants, or various structures of the car may penetrate into the passenger compartment.
We interrupt Breakfast Special to bring you news of the traffic situation. The AA reports traffic moving freely on most inland roads this bank holiday, but they say that overcrowding on the coast roads has brought traffic almost to a standstill. Motorists are advised to avoid the Doncaster bypass, where the moving of heavy equipment is liable to cause severe blockages. Diversion signs have not yet been posted. Roadworks at High Wycombe on the A40 have also caused major traffic dislocation. Wrestlers Bridge on the A1000 at Hatfield collapsed early this morning and the road is closed. Motorists coming from the north should continue down the A1 to Mill Hill. That's the end of the traffic report. Now back to Breakfast Special.
We are car-bred animals, and the car is with us throughout our lives. We depend upon it at all times, on all occasions, until at the end it takes us to our long home. But in life, survival is a matter of experience and quick reflexes, and some of us lack that sureness and speed of decision. But if we're harassed as pedestrians, when we try to park, to go about our legitimate business, we are at once under the surveillance of the law. Nice men, good fathers, kind to women and dogs, pitiless to motorists. All of us caught in the same urban neurosis. Chivied, balked, diverted, instructed, commanded. Sometimes we explode in exasperation and anger. Stupefied by carbon monoxide, we sink into a hopeless lethargy. We dream, perhaps.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your purser, Joanna Daly. May I welcome you aboard Clipper Flight 101 to New York. Your cruising speed will be 625 miles an hour. Your estimated flight time, 6 hours and 20 minutes. The weather in New York is 74 degrees, fine and sunny.
Encapsulated in our little shells of steel and glass, incommunicative, taciturn, bored, waiting to be liberated by the horse, we think nostalgically, perhaps, of more spacious days. Is it surprising that we try and get away to the joys of happy motoring and the open road? Imagine a dual carriageway with several lanes. It stretches from John O'Groats to Land's End and back again. Try to imagine cars parked nose to tail so close that you couldn't even walk between them. That is the number of additional vehicles that will come onto our roads between now and 1970. In under 4 years. Sometimes it feels as if the only solution was to empty our streets and roads and let the pedestrians take over. To stop production and halt assembly lines. Then we could allow the motor car to dwindle into obsolescence, to die out peacefully, to be buried in vast graveyards and cemeteries. Nearly 500,000 people in this country are employed in the motor industry. Their livelihood depends upon the manufacture of cars and motor vehicles. 100,000 more make accessories and component parts. These men are the country's largest users of glass, electrical equipment, sheet steel, and tools. Last year, they were responsible for 60% of the gross national product. The spot welding arcs flicker like summer lightning. In this orderly confusion, the thin shells take shape, brittle, sharp, a feeling of speed about them already. Untouched by human hand, watched by electronic eyes, marshaled by computers, directed by remote control. From the foundry, from the workshop, the components move steadily towards the assembly line. Even here, they are nose to tail, as one day they will most surely sit in the traffic jam. The pace is deceptively slow. Out of the rhythms of work and craftsmanship, the cars emerge. Last year, the motor industry provided 8% of our total exports. Whichever way you look at it, the motor vehicle is an essential part of our economy, if only as a piece of capital equipment in which all but the poorest can invest. An expensive gadget with a short life and a quick renewal rate, a symbol of the throwaway economy. In the year 2000, this child will still be under 40. By that time, the car population of this country will have doubled. What kind of nightmare living awaits him?
We saw it coming. Traffic on central routes last year reached an all-time record. Communications and postal services seized up. The police were forced to take unprecedented steps. Hundreds of reinforcements were brought in from less stricken areas to combat the chaos. They had to control certain crossings, close certain roads. Outside London, the problem was equally acute. In outlying areas, cut off by streams of traffic, choked by jams at peak hours, residents took the law into their own hands. Peaceful demonstrations quickly became dangerous street fights. But nothing could stem the flow. Private cars, banned from central areas, massed on the borders. The suburbs were overwhelmed. Over at Clifton Street, Harpenden, just outside London, it's still saturation point. No use offering anyone here a tow home. This jam started 3 weeks ago, and it still hasn't moved an inch. Now that abandoned cars are liable to instant destruction, these drivers have decided to stay put. And most of them actually prefer their home on wheels. Traffic chaos may have made last year Britain's grimmest since 1940, but the Dunkirk spirit is returning to Clifton Street. The WBS cope magnificently with morale, and early morning tea is the brightest spot of the day. The traffic jam community is served by a mobile tabernacle, alas, no longer mobile. The vicar says he can now bring the word to those who previously were too busy driving on Sundays to come to church. Sundays, and the car radio lets you conduct a full orchestra. Or you can watch the other jams on television. Or just have a chat over the knitting. But all good things come to an end. An injunction has been taken out against the jam dwellers after local petitioning. They may have lost their vehicles, but they can be sure of one thing. They've got themselves out of a terrible jam. And although their cars are being towed away, at least they won't have to pay for it. The jams have been cleared as far as Clifton Street, and the cars are being scrapped to ensure that whatever happens, the roads will never be quite so crowded again.